almost over. My name is Bree Hansen, and I'm one of the support people at HRM Plus. And today we're going to talk a little bit about paraeducators and specifically how you can use your PD system to manage some of the new things that have been coming down from the state. And hopefully you've been keeping up with everything that's been coming down from the state. On my PowerPoint today, I put a lot of links in with information because I'll send out the PowerPoint. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the actual state stuff, but the links are there. So if you don't have some of the emails from the PBSB, I can't talk today, sorry, board, you'll have that as a quick resource so you can, read and delve in a little deeper on what those requirements, the different certificates, all that fun stuff looks like and everything. Couple ground rules before we get started. I have everybody muted when you join the webinar, but by all means, feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question. Webinars are great because they can connect us from all over the U.S., but from a teaching standpoint, it's really, really hard because I can't see my participants, and I'm a very visual person, so I don't know if I've lost you or if I'm not making sense. I like to pick up on visual cues, so you have permission to unmute yourself and say, Bree, that doesn't make sense. Can you please say that again? And feel free to interrupt. And I'm going to turn up hopefully that helps. I got a note that I'm fading in and out a little bit, so hopefully the volume's better now. Just my microphone. Okay, so let's get started. Talking about paraeducators. You all have heard that the legislature has provided money to the Washington school districts to provide 2 days of training for their paraeducators to get them started on their fundamental course of study. So that's 14 hours, and this is to take place during the 2019-20 school year. And the fundamental course of study is a 4-day or a 28-hour curriculum, and the state's really done a nice job of outlining what that curriculum looks like and what the standards are. And I have put the link to that information so that you have that if you want to quickly click on that after I send out the PowerPoint. And it goes into great detail of what, the fundamental course of study looks like, what the different 28 hours. There's even links to the objectives and all that information. So the state's tried to make it easy on the districts, providing you what that training should look like. And then I've also included a few more resources, some questions about the funding and time limits, all that fun stuff. And then there's a link to a nice little infographic that explains the 4 different types of certificates that paraeducators can work towards. They'll all need to have their fundamental and their general certificate, and then they can choose to get the ELL or the special ed, and then ultimately if they choose to get the advanced. So that's all there as well. So like I said, these are just resources for you. We're not going to spend a lot of time going over that. We're more interested in how the system can support you. So we have already programmed, we actually programmed this about a year ago, a default. We call it the Para default. And it's going to act very similar to STEM and TPEP. And similar is the keyword, not exactly. And it's built in to help track the standards of practice on the course request itself. And in a minute, we'll actually shift gears and go to the course request on the release site, and I'll show you what it looks like. And we'll experiment a little. And then participants, pairs, will be able to pull up reports that will identify, their completed standards. And actually, I wasn't aware of this when I started the PowerPoint. Sherry shared with me that it'll show them even the standards they're working on. So if they've registered for courses, it'll even show that they're in process on different standards and help them kind of keep track and manage what they're working on. Does that make sense? Questions on this slide before I move forward? Okay. So when you add a course request, once you've turned on that default, you'll check the box similar to like the STEM box, and another window will open. And if you use Google Chrome, you got to scroll up to find that little window, and you'll find all the different standards will be available to select. It'll be a drop-down menu, and whether you're working on fundamentals, ELL, or special ed, you'll find the one that the course is going to be touching on, or you're teaching about, or whatever. Sorry, having a hard time getting the words out today. And you can, be teaching more than one if you select more than one standard, and it'll get added to the course. And it'll be part of that course, and it'll get tracked so that we can add those to the report so that the paraeducator will know where they sit and how many hours they've earned and where they are in kind of in that completion process of getting their certificate. Hopefully that makes sense. It'll look kind of like this. And like I said, we'll go to the release site in a few moments and actually look at that a little more in detail. This is just a little screenshot. Okay. So we have setup tables on your site. Hopefully you're familiar with your lookup tables. And under the PD tables, there is a table called Paraeducator Standards. And we have loaded all of those standards for you. They're already there. You are more than welcome to go in and edit them. You might not like the way we've abbreviated them. Sorry, I've got messages popping up on my screen. Let me go back. You can go ahead and edit them. Maybe you want to spell out the word instruction or support instead of having it abbreviated. You have that ability to do that. And if for some reason down the line standards change or get modified, we've given you the ability to go in and make those changes. If we get word things change, we typically try to stay on top of that and make the changes for you. But we just like to let you know that you have the option to go in and make changes yourself as well. Other things to think about when it comes to turning on that para default. Some of you might want to look at the current criteria you offer on tab 2. And when you're looking at your different course criteria options, do you need to add new options to select from that will encapsulate the paraeducators? Do you have under your target audience paraeducators as a selection if you use target audience? Everybody's criteria looks a little different. So I would suggest that you look over what you have there and make sure that you're going to have, if you're like me and you like to track data and whatnot, you're going to have the correct options for your course requesters to choose from. So just something to think about, and the support team loves to help with that. So you can always connect with us and we can look at the data with you and say, yeah, let's add something here. We can show you how, or we'll add it for you. Other things to think about, you might want to add a category just to keep the para standard courses kind of separate. You might not. I mean, that's completely up to you. On my demo side, I went ahead and added a new category, para standard, so they could be their own color and visually stand out for the paraeducators to find quickly on the screen when they're searching for courses. That's completely optional, but just something to consider. All right. Talked a little bit about reports. So here's a sample mock-up that one of the districts we're working with has kind of suggested they would like it to look like. The paraeducators, these courses you offer as clock hours. That's what the state wants them to be, their clock hours. So they would be put on a transcript just like a teacher. However, we wanted to also have a separate report that they could pull to help them track their progress. And so this is a sample. We haven't completely pinned down how we want it to look like, and we are more than willing to work with each district to come up with the right report for your process and how you would like to handle or manage paraeducators. And so an example, this might be a report specific to the fundamental course of study. And it's got the 4 main courses, course 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the subsections underneath there. And the number of hours each section is the required amount or the minimal amount, whatever, however you want to word that. And it would right away would show them if they're in progress, completed, and so on. And then there could be a total at the bottom, put the employee's name, their position, and the date they run the report. So this is just a mock-up. So we could work with each district to kind of design how you want your data presented to the employee. And then, of course, we'd make these reports also available to the PD manager and the registrar, so HR, whoever else needs access to these reports could easily pull those reports. So that's kind of the idea. Once the data is there, it's really easy to pull out reports. If HR would prefer more of an Excel-based report to help track progress, those are really simple and quick to put up. We can work with you as well to create the reports you need. Okay, kind of rambling here. So let's go to the release site and look at how it looks when you're actually on a live site. So let me escape from my PowerPoint, hop back on the web. So here I'm on our release site, and I've made a couple of paraeducator courses. So let's start with this one here. And hopefully it's not too slow. It always seems when you're on a webinar, things work slower than you want them. So on my release site, I went ahead and I added a new category to track paraeducator standards. So I selected that and I gave it the title that I wanted. And this is the part I wanted you to see. So here's the para standards. And when I check the box, I get the little window that's up here. And so you'll see we've got the fundamental standards, I've got my ELL standards, I've got my special ed, and we've got other. So if you, the general course of study, if you read about that, it's a little more loose. They have to have the fundamental plus 50 extra. So if you were offering some things, you could use other to track that, and so on. But we can work with you individually on that. But you would find the standard you want from the drop down. You would select it, and it would show up here. If you make a mistake, you would click on it and remove it. Simple as that. And when you're done, close the screen and save your work. Hopefully that makes sense. Questions about that? So we've really tried to make it simple for tracking things. And then the sky's the limit when it comes to reports. However you want to have, whatever information you want for your paras, we can, if we're collecting it, we can pull it. We will be updating the course information report so that it'll show the para details, and trying to think what else will be updated once we turn on the para. We've kind of been in a holding pattern waiting to find out if the state was going to fund things or not, and now we know they are. Trying to think, Deb, I know you're on the line. Am I missing anything important?
Nope.
Okay, so I'm going to open it up for questions while I think of stuff that I may have missed. I do know that the state is offering online courses for 12 hours of the fundamental. You could very easily link the 12-hour online courses through your system so that it's an easy way for paraeducators to find how to access that. And we could work with you so that we could also make sure when they complete it that the credits show up um, on the reports so you know that they've completed them. Some of you are familiar with online courses and have it down. Other districts have never done that, so we can kind of work with you individually on how to do that. Trying to think of anything else. You're welcome, Elaine. But yes, if you want to set up an individual meeting with myself or Deb or anyone, we are happy to do that. I know some of you don't have your classified staff on your portal yet, and you might want to talk about, okay, what's that look like? We're ready to help you with that as well. It's not hard to add your classified staff and get them set up so that they have access to the system, and it wouldn't take much time at all. So that's just reach out to either myself or Deb or the support, email support, and we can get the ball rolling for you guys. All right. I'm trying to make this quick and painless because I know everybody's busy. I'm going to stay on the line and answer questions, but that is basically all I had today. Went a lot quicker than I thought. I will email the PowerPoint so you have all the links handy. I don't know if you got the email yesterday. There is going to be another webinar put on by the state on June 5th. If you didn't get the email, let me know because I'll forward mine to you, where they're going to go over more details about the para stuff from the state's end of things.
Bree?
Yeah.
Will the courses, the paraeducator courses, this was a question that came in, will the courses require the evaluation?
At this time they do, but we could make a very simple just for para evaluation because they're clock hours. They still have to follow the clock hour rules. That's a really good point. They have to be 3 hours. And yes, they're going to require an evaluation because they're clock hours. But if you want to make a different clock hour or an evaluation form specific for paras, and you can make it really simple, we can do that. And we can help you create a new form. But that's a really good question, and I'm sorry I didn't see that pop up on my screen. Because the idea, I think, is, with the paraeducators getting the certificates, especially those working towards an advanced, the idea is they'd hope that eventually these paras would become teachers, and the clock hours and all that kind of works towards that. So anyway, that's just me rambling. Other questions? Yes, there are some time constraints about time windows and stuff about getting things completed. And if you read, so when I send you the PowerPoint, there's a link to the website, and it does a really nice job of explaining the time frames. And also, if you go to the webinar on the 5th, I'm sure they'll touch in detail a little bit more about the time frames, Carla. And I can make sure you get that email, and Michelle, you as well, just so you don't miss out on that. And the nice thing is the state is really good about recording those emails or those webinars and making them available for people who missed them. So I'll share that with you guys as well.
Yeah, and in that email, it has a link to their previous webinar.
Yes, and it was a great webinar. I think that was back in March, the last one we watched.
Yeah, I think March when we attended.
Yeah, and they've done a really good job, I think, of explaining the process. I can, if you pull up here's the graphic, the 4 different, doesn't quite fit in the screen, but we've got the Paraeducator Certificate Program, And then you've got the different certificates and all the, they've made some nice graphics. And they've provided you with all the tools. You've got, even on this one, you've got your course of study and your outlines and learning objectives. They're providing districts with all of that. And the website itself breaks it down. So here's the fundamental course of study, the school district responsibilities, even talks about timeline and deadlines. So the links to all of this are in my PowerPoint, so you'll be getting that later today. And it has the links to the online modules. So I said there's 12 of the 28 hours your paraeducators can do online for free. So the state's trying to help out. So anyway, and then they go into detail on the other certificates as well. The general, well, it's actually fundamental course of study leads into the general certificate, and then you got your subject matter certificates and your advanced certificate. So it's all there on I never say it right, Professional Educator Standards Board website. There we go. I have to read it so I don't mess it up. All right. Well, thank you guys. I'll stick around, like I said, but feel free. You don't have to, unless you have questions.
Bree?
Thanks, Michelle. Yes.
It's Kathy.
Hey.
So quick question for you. Are we going to be able to have reports on the ERM side?
Yes.
Paraeducators and the PD?
Yes.
You may have said that. I had to leave for a second.
No, I just said that there'll be reports, and since
Okay.
ERM and PD are linked, of course.
Okay.
HR, well, we can make them be either, probably for ERM side, it'd be the exports would make the most sense for you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
yes, because once the data's there, it's really easy. We'd probably work with you on how you want that data. What's going to be the easiest way to have it presented? But yes, we'll make those reports.
I mean, the export information would be great because of all the things you can do with the data.
Exactly.
But the other thing, the outline of the courses that you had and where the employee was, I really like that as well. So I don't know if we can do both or.
Yeah, I'm sure we can. The nice thing, because the two systems are linked, and it's, from my understanding, it's pretty easy to have reports show in either portal.
Okay.
Similar to, there's credit, like certificated credit reports that are actually ERM reports, but employees can pull them under My Records on the PD portal because the data is shared between the two portals.
Right. Okay.
So it's kind of, we're going to be learning together and developing these reports together. It's a growth year. When the state throws new stuff our way, we all kind of learn and develop. And the nice thing is, if you have strong opinions on what data you want, we'll develop your reports, and we might share them with other people because they might go, oh, that's awesome. That's exactly what I want too. Or they might say, I like this, but let's add this. So that's a nice thing. When we all work together, we can kind of share and build the reports more as a group rather than, these solo entities.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. And since these, just a sidebar, and since these really are clock hour classes, they can be on the actual transcript as well. But we want to also be able to separate them for the paras because they need to keep track for, getting their certificates and everything.
And I was also thinking about the crossover between the two positions. We have a lot of paraeducators going in, getting teaching degrees, and the back and forth between. Sometimes we have teachers that just want to go in as paras, and so.
Exactly.
It'll be good.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.